Hello, this is Professor Jack. This is chapter 5, and yeah, this is the chapter on groups. Okay, so first we had an identity chapter, which is the chapter on culture. Then after that, we had a social interaction chapter and communication, right? And then we had a social interaction chapter and social structure chapter, which dealt more with the characteristics of social interaction, right? The types and the elements and so on. But chapter 5 closes with an important detail that all this social interaction we're talking about, all this structure and the norms and the values and even the identity that you have can only exist in a cell. And this cell is called a group, right? No wonder. Okay, so you have to have groups. See, like the exercise that I gave you a couple of, I don't know, I think it was last lecture or so. To close your eyes and imagine society and what it was. Remember that part? Well, yeah. What you do is that you think of people interacting, and these people that interact could be, could be groups of people, or could be social aggregates. Strangers just having an interaction, right? So yeah, the definition of social groups, of course, the definition of social aggregates. Please go ahead and know that. Remember that you have the slides. Go ahead and cautiously go through each of the slides. Open the transcript for every presentation, which is at the bottom of the week, and just go ahead and first save the slides to your computer, to your hard drive, and then after that go and open them, right? It's just a number of people who have a common identity, a feeling of unity, and certain common goals and shared expectations. That's the definition of a group. Okay, that's what it's telling you is what a group is, right? We have official social members, right? We have members of a group. We have families, which is the most important group. We have so many other kinds of groups out there, right? And then, of course, we have the social aggregate, and this deals more with strangers. See, what happens is this. You simply cannot just have... See, social interaction and socialization is not strictly only to group members. You go ahead and speak to strangers and still interact, right? Social interaction may be more... you may actually consider long-term social interaction as socialization more with group members and not necessarily with strangers, but there's still this process of social interaction with strangers as well, with social aggregates, right? Even if they're temporarily in physical proximity to you, but you still interact with people. You interact with strangers, right? When you go to school and you meet someone over there in the lunch truck or wherever, I just go ahead and say hi. Sometimes you just temporarily have a discussion, I don't know, on sports or school or the class or soch or whatever, right? So that's just wanted to go ahead and make that clarify that, because many people may actually be confused between the two concepts. And okay, so like moreover, okay, what is the smallest group of all? The smallest group of all is a diet. So you could go ahead and have very large groups, and you have very small groups as well. A diet, a triad. A diet would be a small groups composed of 2 people. A triad would be groups composed of 3 people. And see, the other realization is that as the group size increments, so does the need of the group and the requirement of structure to support this larger frame, right? Then we must have these statuses and these positions and the bureaucracy that must also step in case you have a large corporation, no longer a group, or a club. Okay, I always like to use my example. 20 years, close to 20 years, when I used to be a student at this same college, by the way. Yeah. Students and many perhaps, or some administrators and even teachers, a lot of teachers, by the way, at the college, remember me, Professor Jack, first as a student. A couple of my fellow colleagues were teachers of mine, by the way, nearly 20 years ago, and so they remember me as a student, and then as a student mentor and a tutor, perhaps I think back in the early 90s. And then later as a student assistant for many years, working at the Computer Lab Learning Skills Center. And now, since 2003 or so, as a part-time associate professor, fellow professor. And what happens is when I used to be a student, 15, 16, 17 years ago, we used to have a club at the college, and the name of the club is not important, but we were there for social-political things. So we were there to Latinos. We're here to make our voice count, that kind of thing, right? And we used to, congregate. We were a couple of people. We didn't have enough people in the group, in the club, to actually officialize the club. And the associated student organization needed us to, more people. So as the group size incremented, we're able to go ahead and form the club officially. The problem is that as it increased more and more, we needed structure, and we didn't have the right structure. We didn't have good leadership, or the right leadership, in my opinion, at least. We didn't have people that were very, how do you say, joyful of the group. Many people were there just to date other people. Many people were there just to have fun and go to the party and go to the park. And many people were there just to, whenever we had a rally, just maybe eat free donuts or coffee or whatever. But many of us actually wanted to do something, right? Wanted to go ahead and have some sort of a, wanted to be something about it. I mean, I was only 19. I was a kid at the time, right? And but it was a great experience that taught me a lot of what I'm telling you right now. See, when the group is very small, it doesn't have structure. The structure is not needed because more or less interaction flows simultaneously among members, right? But as the group size increments, then you need structure. Now, when the group is small, many times, and we're talking about a club here, right? A formal, like more of a mini formal organization, right? It tends to dissipate if there's no interest. Now, as it increases in numbers, it survives, but you don't have structure. It also dissipates. It also fades. Do you understand what I'm saying here? You need structure. You need status. The things we're talking about in the previous chapter. You need the norms. You need an identity, which is the culture chapter. We're talking about that. And now in this case, since we're talking about society and politics, more of a social political identity as well. Depends on the group. So it's just something I wanted to go ahead and throw there, kind of pitch it to you, just to go ahead and for you to have a better understanding of what a group is and how it works, right? It works when you have structure, but it also works when it's not a group, when it's more of a group of strangers or social aggregates, just you having a conversation with a stranger. Maybe there's not a lot of formality or a form group, but then the process of social interaction still follows regardless with strangers or well-known people. You got it? So, humans wouldn't be human without groups, right? That's true. You wouldn't be human if you didn't have this mirror, which is society, other people, to pretty much give you the identity you need. We need this process of social interaction to further get to know more about ourselves and develop an identity. So then, what is a reference group or a primary and secondary groups? Go ahead and study that on your own. Pretty much the primary group, we're talking about we're talking about a group, not necessarily social aggregates, right? Not necessarily strangers. Small, less specialized group in which members engage in face-to-face interaction. We're more emotion-based, right? And could happen, with in close relationships like husband and wife, a parent and child, sometimes even teacher and student, And then the secondary group frame is like a large group, more specialized group. Now, interaction exists in both of the groups, right? That's not to question, right? But secondary groups are more casual, right? A large, more specialized group, you have clerk and customer, announcer and listener, many times the expectations dealing with the statuses are distorted, depends of, if the group is larger, you actually need then the structure I was talking about, right? You need actually more of a formality, you need an organization type of a setting, and for that we have the we call it the bureaucracy, right? We have to have some sort of a structure in place. Yeah, and so bureaucracies are needed, right? And but another characteristic of a group, that groups have functions and have boundaries. But one of the characteristics needed in a larger group is leader. Yeah, leadership. So we have two types of leaders in this chapter. The first one is the instrumental leader, which coincides a lot more with the authoritarian style. Yeah, the expressive leader coincides more with the democratic and also the laissez-faire type of or style of a leader, of leadership. So you have the leader and then you have the leadership type. You have the leadership type and you have the leadership style follow with that, right? So, excuse me. So these two are different types, and many people actually run businesses by the instrumental type, and they're very authoritarian, right? Because they're running the business, right? And then other people actually, they're more like, it's all about the employee. Let's keep them happy. Let's show them that we care about them and that they count and so on. And so, many times you have the type of leader who actually follows this way of working with people. He or she may actually have a lot more social skills than the other type. For sure, right? And then the type that is instrumental would be definitely, strict, on the line, and definitely on the deadline all the time. So yeah, two different types, of course, and groups need any of the two. Sometimes you have more than one leader depends on the type of a group you have, and you tend to have a lot more problems when you have like several leaders because of the power and the authority, right? That is there. It goes with formal organizations in that same way. Since we're going to talk about formal organizations, yeah, I was talking about the bureaucracy earlier, right? And Weber brought six with his studies on bureaucracies. He brought six main characteristics of a bureaucracy. And so the first type of characteristic of the six bureaucracies types of the six characteristics of an ideal bureaucracy. The first one is rules and regulations, hierarchical delegation of power and responsibility, clear cut division of labor, and then he goes further to talking about impartiality. That is to and not take it personally, but also don't make favoritisms on people. Make sure that everyone's treated okay. Everybody has some sort of everybody has a role to play. Everybody has a clear division of what the work they have to do. Nobody does anybody else's work. Everybody there is equal, while everyone abides by given responsibility and norms and on. And then he also spoke about that in groups, in large organizations, large groups, you have to also have a distinction between what's your private life versus your public versus your job, your profession. Don't mix it with your romantic love, your romantic life. So one good advice is not to marry a fellow social worker or a fellow professor if it will intervene with your professional life. Don't start dating, right? That's what a lot of people do in their life. They don't date people they work with. and so you have like employment based on technical qualifications. Only those that deserve the job will get the job. You have the qualifications, sometimes experience as well. We're putting work. So this bureaucracy sort of like helps, sort of like ensures that everybody's rights are protected and safe. And so yeah, these are the six characteristics of a bureaucracy that Weber discusses. Yes, I hope that this is a great lecture for you. It kind of closes the three-part series, chapter 3, chapter 4, and now chapter 5, on pretty much the same discussion, the socialization and groups, and still we're asking what is society, and we cover an identity chapter, which is the identity chapter was the culture chapter, and then we figure that society is all about social interaction, really, right? And groups, of course, now what we're talking here, right? And groups help encapsulate all the other characteristics, of identity, of status, of norms, of interaction, of communication, and so on. Okay, so listen, thank you for this time you gave me. I appreciate that. I hope you will listen to me to the following lecture. I hope to see you there, or rather, I hope you see me there and hear from me. Take care. This is Professor Jack. Bye-bye.